Yes, in last lecture we completed the setup. We download the VirtualBox and we download the CentOS and we create the VM, right? Virtual machine in CentOS, and we complete the Postgres database installation, right? So this installation you can because we did installation on the VM, and you can access Postgres database from the VM level, right? From the local host, not from the remote. Okay. If you want to try to access this VM remote, you cannot do that. Okay. So in today's lecture, what we do, we can go with the physical architecture of Postgres, and we can make a little comparison with the Oracle database and Postgres database. Okay. The physical architecture. Basically, the physical architecture is very important, because without knowing physical architecture, you cannot do proper administration, right? So this physical architecture we will talk about. So let me open the notepad, just explain you. So basically, the physical architecture means you remember first what we did, we installed the Postgres binaries, right? So first we install the binaries. For example, if you see here, pg bin, okay? So these are our binaries file. First we install the binaries, then second step what we did, we configured the Postgres database, right? When we configure the database, it creates the database file under PG data, right? PG data.
Yeah.
See here, this is our PG data. So in the real scenario, when we install the Postgres database, it creates one binary directory and one data directory, right? So binary mean executable files, and PG data mean you have real data inside this folder. Real data mean when you create database, when you create any database object, it will create it under PG data. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah. So first
the binary.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
So the binary is the location where we kept all the configuration file, right?
No, binary is basically a software configuration file created under PG data. PG,
okay.
Yeah, PG binary basically like PG restore, PG backup, executable files, executable.
Yes. Yeah, PGCTL.
Yeah, PGCTL basically stops, the utility, you can stop the database. If I go in the PG bin, you see these are libraries, right? And these are bin directory. If we go to the bin, we see all executable files, right? Cluster DB, create user, drop DB, drop user. So there is a many utilities, native utility you can use to do basic administration on Postgres database, right?
Yes.
Right. This is a Postgres. If you talk about Oracle, if you talk about SQL Server, this is same thing. First, you install the software, then you create the database instance, right? So our all executable file, these are basically utilities. We can do proper, for example, PGCTL. This utility, you can stop the Postgres services, right? PG dump, you can take the backup. PG dump all, you can take all databases backup in one shot in Postgres, right? So wall dump, upgrade, the vacuum, right? To database create database users, roles. So we will go through this, okay? So in this binaries, we mostly use PG dump and PGCTL, okay?
Yep.
Okay. And PG based backup, you remember? PG based backup, right? So PG based backup is basically file system level backup, so you can copy the content under PG data to somewhere, some other location, right? So PG based backup, PG dump, PGCTL, these three are very important, right? So mostly, mostly in as a DBA role, you use frequently these options. Okay. So these are binaries. So when we install the Postgres, it creates the binaries. Then we configure the Postgres. The configuration means we create the database instance, right? First, we install the binary. See, I just wanted to clear basic concept. When you have concept, you will not worry about things, right? So because the database, when you don't have basic concept, you do one-time job, next time you forget, right? You forget. So it is very difficult to memorize and remember. So first, as I earlier said, we have operating system. In operating system, we have, the Postgres binaries, database binaries. Then we have, create database instance. Then we create the databases. Okay. So this is the order, flow, right? So any database system, we have this flow, right? As a DBA role, when they ask you, we need to set up the environment, you first need to have, this OS installation, this is not a DBA job. This is a system admin job, okay? And this is the DBA job. The rest all DBA job, right? So these all is a DBA job from here to here.
Yeah.
So this is the basic, when we create an environment, we need to do this. Okay. So we talk about binaries. Now, when we create database instance, each RDBMS like Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, they have a method to create the database instance. But in Postgres, we're talking about Postgres, we have initdb command. Okay. You remember when we do the installation, we run this initdb. When we run the initdb, it creates the PG data directory, right? For example, when you create the binary, there is no PG data, right? When you run this initdb command, configuration command, then if you go to the PG data, you will see these files will created by default, okay?
Yeah, so basically the purpose of the initdb when we install the Postgres is to populate the data, right?
So configure the Postgres.
When we do the configuration
of the Postgres, right?
Okay, when we do the configuration of Postgres, when we issue the command initdb is to populate the data. So that's why when we cd to the PG data, we are able to see all those
files. Yeah, we will go through these files. We will go through these all files. What is the purpose of these files? Okay. So basically, see, as I mentioned, when you do any software installation, right, database software installation, you install the software first, right? The software mean is the binary files, right? Then second step is configuration, create the database instance, okay? So when you create the database instance, so this is what we did. When we run initdb, we create the database instance. In general term, we call database configuration, right? So if I open the PG, see, till now it is clear for you, right?
Right again.
Till today, what we learn, what we did, it is clear. What we talk about, right? It is clear for you, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So if we go the PG data, we have many files here. We will first, before discussing the architecture, I will give you some file which is very important. Like this is the PG postgresql.conf. This is a very important file for database configuration. Any configuration, what you will do in the Postgres, you have to do in this file. Okay. So this file is very important, postgresql.conf. You get that?
Yes.
So if we open this file, we can use the VR editor in Linux, or I will tell you, if you don't know the Linux, how you open this file, okay? So for example, I have WinCP, I can WinCP to my server, okay? Okay, so if I go to I connect it to my machine, so I go to PG data, I can open the file, which is this configuration file, right? So as a DBA role, when you do any modification on these files, you have to take backup first, okay? You see, these file, all owner is Postgres user. So I will recommend to not connect through root. You have to connect through the Postgres user. So let me set the password for Postgres user, okay? Because this is okay, right? So I will set the password to Postgres user. Then I make WinCP and connect through Postgres user, right? Not through root user, because these all file PG data. Oh, switch to Postgres. Because see, in the Linux, you cannot use root user for any software installation or any database software. Okay, so we have a CentOS operating system, we have a root user, but we create Postgres user OS level, right? So we need to use Postgres user to do any task on Postgres database level, right? So if you see here, I will just show you ls minus ltr. See, these all files, owner, who is owner? Postgres, right?
Yeah.
So these are all under Postgres user. So I set the password. Let me connect through WinCP. Postgres user.
I have a question. So that means that if we have to do any modification in the Postgres configuration in the Postgres.com file, right? So
Yeah.
we have to be under root user to do that. We have to be under the user Postgres.
That's right. This is a very, this is correct, right. If you do modification through root user, that means you are playing with the Postgres database configuration. Maybe Postgres database will stop.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to use the owner who is owner of these binaries. Okay.
Okay.
So when
So first,
you know how to check.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
How to check first? For example, as a DBA role, they give you one server, okay, to do administration, right? The first step is you should know which user. I'm not talking about only, maybe they have created different user and give ownership, right? Right? It can be different user, but by default, when we do installation, the user is the Postgres. In the 99% cases, we have Postgres user OS level. Okay.
So in this case, the Postgres user is like a master. How do you call it?
The master administrator.
Master administrator, right?
That's right. Like in Oracle,
So
you use Oracle user.
So meaning if I have a job in any company and then they create my username, but I will not able to connect to get into the configuration file because I'm not an administrator user, right?
Yeah, but see, when
any user can VI the configuration, the Postgres configuration file.
Yeah, but no. The who is owner, you can view, but you cannot modify.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. You can modify if you have ownership of this user. You know, the mostly company, they will give you VPN account, right?
Yeah.
When they give you VPN account, then they create your user.
Yeah.
Then they give you jump server access, mostly. You connect this user to this jump server. From this jump server, you can access the database. You get that? If they will not give you directly access to database server, you have to go through jump server.
Yeah, I got you.
That is what I have right now.
Yes, I know that. So the mostly company have jump server, they provide the jump server. Any activity on the database system, you have to go through jump server. You cannot directly connect to VPN and connect to the database server, right?
Yeah.
So, so what we talk about, these 1, 2, and 3 file, 3, 4. These four files are very, very important. You always remember, okay?
Oh, we have the ptindent.com.
The
Okay.
identity basically is the user mapping. You know, you can map the user. I can go one by one, okay? Explanation, okay?
Okay. Okay.
So if you see HBA, host-based authentication, so that means, for example, we install the Postgres database, right? But we can access database locally from the local server, but we cannot access database from remote location through pgadmin or pSQL. So this is basically Postgres firewall, okay? If I open this file, you see here, if I open the file, you see we need to give specific permission to specific user to specific database to access the Postgres database server. You get that? You know, for example, we created database. I created database. I did not allow anyone to access my database from remote location. So what I will do, I will go to my database physical server. This is my physical where I install the Postgres, right? So by default, locally, you can access the database server, but you cannot access this database server from jump server or from any remote location. So for basically, this is a firewall in Postgres. If you want to give access to someone, you need to add network under this configuration to allow him to access the database server, right? We will see, you know.
Under which configuration? Because no, he's pointing something else. That's what I'm asking. He's pointing PG table space. That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm not talking about PG table space.
No, because when you went to the command line to Postgres, you highlight that. So that's why I'm asking.
Here in my window.
It's okay. It's okay. Zee, we can go.
No, we're talking about the HB, this file, right? We will go one by one things, you know. I'm talking about the hba.conf file, right?
Yep.
So in this file, this is basically Postgres firewall files, okay? So you see the file, you can see here description of file. The file control which host allowed to connect, how client or authorize, authenticate, which Postgres user name they can use, which database they can access. Record take one of these form, right? So for example, in your, you join one company. I give you example, okay? To just understand, okay?
Okay.
You join one company, ABC, okay? And this company have new requirement, okay? And this company have many customers. Okay. So they have new customer. Okay, new customer, which required one database access. Okay, under company database server, right?
Mhm.
So this customer is not your employee. You mean it is a external customer, right? Okay. So how you will give him access to this database? You will ask him, give your network where you want to access our database server, right? For example, he give this network. This is my network, okay? I want to access your database server from this network, okay? And second, when he informs this network to the company, then they will create his user under Postgres database, okay? And privilege is account as needed. Okay, we will talk about security. Okay, we are not talking about this. I give example. Okay.
Okay.
So if anyone can access the remote database access, we need to authorize to give specific privileges. Okay, not open access, right? It is risky. So, for example, I have PG admin. I install the database server. Let me open the PG admin. First thing, you install the PG admin.
No, yet you haven't asked her to do that.
Yeah, okay. So if I open this, first we install the PG. Okay, no, before installing, I will explain to you. Okay.
Okay.
So what we did, Postgres database we install, right? It called server, right? It called server, Postgres database server. So any server, any type of server, if you want to access, you need client, right?
Yeah.
Right? So the client you need to access the database server. Without client, you cannot access, right? So for this, for example, I put Oracle, I put Postgres here. Oracle, we have client SQL developer, right? This is the database client. Second, we have Toad. This is a second client to access. Third, we have SQL Plus, right? Right. Four, we have Erwan, many software, right? Many clients, they can access the database directly, right? There are many clients. So mostly we use SQL Plus and SQL Developer. The same thing in Postgres. We have DB, we have, PG admin. We have DB, many tools. We have SQL Plus is replacement of pSQL. Okay, so like that, we can access through Toad even DB Weaver, I think.
Is DBA.
Yeah, DBA, yes. So these, mostly people DBA and the PG admin they are using. These three are using mostly people, right? PG admin, DBA and pSQL, right? So this is a command line tool. And this is, GUI, graphical interface, right? Same thing here, GUI, and GUI. Yes, command line, right? Makes sense? So mostly people using the PG admin and pSQL, okay? Any question so far?
No, for now.
Okay. So first, let's see. You know, I will see what is my IP of this one. This database server which I created. My IP is this is my machine IP, right? You can type ifconfig -a and you can see the IP of database. Okay, right? So we install. We need to know the. I connect to Postgres. I'm just talking. I'm focusing on HBA file. Okay, I'm just giving you a demo. What is the purpose of HBA file? Okay, just remember.
Okay.
You see, I connected to pSQL. This is the pSQL, right? This is the command line which we talk, right? So I just put connection info. This command, it will give me which user I am connected, what is my port on the database, right? This gives you a database information which you have currently, right? This command is very important. Connection info, right?
Yeah.
We'll go through the pSQL commands. I also make a list of commands which is useful. I will share with you people, okay? So when you run any command through pSQL, you need to use the slash, okay? This one, slash connection info. So it will give you which database you are connecting. I am connecting to Postgres database by default, and I am connecting through user Postgres, and this database have this default port, which is 5432, right? So let me connect to my PG admin. Okay. So let me add new server. You aware about PG admin little or no? Or new for you?
Ask the question again.
You people know about PG admin little, or it is totally new for you?
No, it's not new.
It is okay, right? So I need to add new server, database server and PG admin, so I can put my demo database name. Okay. Then I go to connection. I will put my database server IP or host name, which is 49, which I see. This was my default port. This was my database, and this was my user, which I show here, right? You see here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Then okay. So first thing, I need to set the password of Postgres because I did not set that time. Password. We'll go through these commands, or don't worry about this. So this is my database user, which is Postgres. I just set the password for this user, okay, using this command, okay. So here I need to have a database user password. So I can put which I put password. Save. You see here, what is the error? You see here? Unable to connect to the server, no PHP HBA config entry for this host. So this is, this 1.8 is my machine where I'm connecting. Okay. If you go here, IP config all, you see this is my IP, right? Where my PG admin is, right? So PG admin giving message, you cannot connect to that. You are not authorized to connect to this database server because this network not allow in Postgres configuration, right?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sorry?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you use the IP address coming from PS SQL?
Why? Sorry, again.
Why are you using the IP address coming from PS command line, either than PS SQL? Yeah, either than VMware.
No, the P-SQL, I'm not using PC. Where I'm using? I'm using this PG admin, right?
Yeah, that was the question. Why are you not using the one from VMware?
VMware?
Z.
Yeah, I did not get you. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Right? Okay. So anytime that we have to look for our IP address, where do we have to go and check our IP address? Do we have to check it only under the command prompt, or we can check it also under the PS SQL?
No, you have to check from the from the OS level. There is no IP here.
Okay. Okay, so PS SQL is not OS level.
Yeah, P-SQL is a database client, right? You cannot get IP detail. IP is IP you assign to the VM, not the Postgres database, right? So when you, this is my database server, right? Where I install the Postgres, right? So I can check IP from here, from my database, from my server. Right?
Yes, that's why he was asking. So why did you go to the command prompt instead of checking here to Postgres? So is it the same IP address?
Okay. Got your point. So here I check the IP of the server, right? This is my database server, right? And in the post P-SQL, I check only the connection information, port. There is no IP here. You see, there is no IP.
Okay.
Yes.
This
So
is the
going
database
down to
information.
yes, here we see the database information with the users, password, and port.
Database name, username, and port.
Okay. So now, why did you go to command prompt to check another IP instead of using the IP that you check from the Postgres side?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I check one time. Maybe I repeat 2 times. Maybe I check one time, first time.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I check the IP first. This is my database server where I install the Postgres. Then I connect to P-SQL, check which port this database is using and which user, right? This information you have already, you know, when you join company, they will provide you database username and database name and port, right? So this information you have already.
Okay.
See here, this information you have already.
Yes.
And even IP you have already. I just wanted to show how to check the IP, right? You know, as a DBA, when you join, they give you database server name, right? Host name. They give you database port. They give you database user, right?
Yes.
They give you database password. So this I'm just showing you how to check, right? This information you have already.
Yep.
Okay. You know,
I have a question. They give to you or you have to check it?
no, they give to you. They give to you. They give you host name and IP, both things. You know, for example, they said we have some issue with some database server. Okay, they will tell we have some issue with some Postgres database server. This is a question. So you can ask, okay, which database server? Could you please share me access to this database server? Okay, and they provide you this information.
Okay.
Okay.
How you know what database server, right? They should give you IP and host name. But what I am telling, how to check, you know, if you have already database server, you know the IP, you can connect to the database server, how to check the connection information, you know, right? Just for your reference. But these information you have already when you join some company.
Okay.
So now, for example, I am connecting. So it is saying this is my PG admin. Okay, I'm installing on my laptop. My laptop IP is 18. So it said to me, this IP, we don't know who is he. Okay. If you want to access database Postgres, you have to allow this IP in Postgres configuration to tell Postgres this user is authorized, right?
Okay. Okay. Now I got you.
Okay. So you remember we, let me. Here.
But
You just need to allow, for example, I will take this line, I will tell. If I go here, I was doing some, I set up a replication for Postgres for one of my client, So this is my replication environment. I have standby server, I have primary server, okay? So I was just configuring the replication. So I use the same VM now. Anyway, so I will go to PG data. I will, or either you can go through, if you don't know the command, you can go through WinCP, okay?
Okay, use this one. Use this one.
Command?
Yeah.
Okay. Via Postgres SQL conf. This is the, PGHBA, right? Here you see, by default, the local host allowed, right? By default. So what I do,
you add that IP address there.
no, this is my environment for replication, In your case, it will be a local host only, this one, okay? This I added, earlier my configuration. Forget about these two IP, okay? When you open the file, you will see only local host, okay? So here I will allow my IP.
Be careful, because be careful. You add
A
at the end of first.
the line above that.
Yeah. Okay, because this is a very critical. Before modify this file, you have to take backup, okay? So I will tell you, first I will save and I will tell you, okay? So I modify IP here 18. I need to give 18 privileges. Okay, so you see the above tag line here, you see here?
Yes, can you analyze that page, please?
This one?
Can you enlarge the page? Small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me change the. It's okay now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So you see here the type, database, user, address, and method. So you see, I tell him, I give this host, all database access, okay? For all users. That means any database user can access database server. But in our in company case, they will tell, okay, please allow this user for this specific database, for this specific host access. Okay. So let me save this one. So before modify, you have to copy a backup for this file, copy _BAK, for example, 23rd today. So just enter. You can take backup, okay? I just took the backup, okay? Before modifying. Then you can via editor, use via editor and modify. Okay? So now, okay, keep in mind, when you do any configuration change.
Yeah, but see, I have a question before you exit that file. File.
Okay, sure.
Yes. So why are you putting the method MD5?
MD5 is the method, MD5 and trust we will cover in detail. but this is a, authentication method, algorithm,
Yes. Yes, I know it's an authentication method, but because I know, so okay. So do you want the user to connect with password, or you want this user to connect without a password?
with password.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so we can go with the detail, this authentication method and kubros and this method we will go, okay?
Okay.
Because MD5, you remember, just keep in mind, MD5 basically is the password authentication, right? So when you use trust, that means you are not using the password. Without password, you can connect, right? So this is the basic.
Yeah.
This is the basic, difference.
Yeah, and I know the difference. But usually in the company, what do they use? They mostly use
MD5.
MD5, right? Because they don't trust all the users.
That's right, MD5. They have to use the MD5. So when you do some modification, I mentioned, 3 files here.
Yeah, you mentioned 4. You mentioned the Postgres.com file, the pghba.com file.
That's right. When you do any change in this file,
and the pg auto
auto-config, yes.
Yeah.
When you do any changes on this file, you have to reload the Postgres service, okay?
Yes.
There is a way, I will tell you later, some parameter, you can reload the configuration without rebooting, rebouncing the service, okay? Because if you are a huge production environment, which is the OLTP database, people are accessing, you cannot reboot, right? Because when you rebounce or reboot or recycle, all user will disconnect it, right? So it is not authorized to, to reboot or rebounce, okay? But now we can do that. Later, I will tell you the method without rebooting, how we can refresh the configuration file, okay? So for example,
that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. So first, I need to reload pgctl. This is the basically command to stop, reload, and start. This is the utility, built-in utility, in the Postgres. You always remember pgctl, Postgres control configuration. So I will reload. Okay.
So my question is this, right? So let's say that in the real environment like mine, I'm working, and I need to do a changes in one of those configuration file, like for instance the pghba.com file, right? Yeah. So you just that it's not advisable to reload that file after you make a changes in the company. I mean, because you create like a lock, you say something like that, so that your server will go down.
Everybody will be kicked out.
Yeah, everybody will be kicked out. So in the company, what can I do? I make a company. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I will tell you. I will tell you. I will tell you now. Okay. I will tell you now. Okay.
Okay.
So see, when you reboot, that means you are restarting your service, right? So it is not acceptable, right? The application will disconnect. Oh, everyone is disconnect. Oh, our server is down, right? It is not advisable. Before doing any restart database or reload database, you have to inform to your management, okay? But if you do some configuration change, so there is a way without restarting, you can refresh the configuration file, okay? So for example, I will connect to pSQL, and this is very simple command, select pg reload, right, _config, like that. This is, when you do any change in Postgres, you run this command, it will reload. Select pg _ reload _ conf. Okay, see? So without rebooting, if you do modification on the Postgres configuration, you can run this query and it will reload the configuration. No need to reboot the database server, a database service. Okay. Now we can connect to the let's see, we are able to connect or not, right? So this one is the server, my demo pSQL connection. I have an IP or host name 49. I put my password, which I put right. I can connect, right? You get that?
Yep.
So I can connect to Postgres, my database server, and you see, I can see three basically, object folder. One is the database, one is a login, one is a table spaces. Okay, these three things is a fresh installation, right? So this is a HBA file, the configuration. HBA basically is the firewall. You can allow to, because see, I enabled replication, so it is replication is happening right here. So this is your dashboard, main dashboard, where you can monitor your database. Okay. This is the number of sessions, this is transaction per second. So this is block IO. So tuples out, tuple in. So these are all, we will learn about these things. Okay. So this is basic general, dashboard for DBA to see the current status of database activity, which is called PG activity. This is a PG activity, status. Okay, there. Any question?
No, for now.
So this we'll go one by one. You just remember the file. I will tell you one very important thing. Because I never forget, because this is very important for you people. In Oracle, we have P file, which is the parameter file. Okay. All configuration on the database configuration stored in the parameter file. Okay. So here in Postgres, we have Postgres conf. Okay. This is equivalent to in Postgres, right? In Oracle, we have SP file, which is a server parameter file. It also called binary file. But in Postgres, we have Postgres SQL.auto.conf. Okay. This you always remember. Okay. When you do runtime change in Oracle, you use SP file. When you use runtime change in Postgres, you have to use auto. It will use auto config file. Okay.
Okay.
Any question there?
No, I'm still thinking about that.
So can you explain again the SP file?
SP file is a server parameter file. It is a binary file. You cannot modify using any editor. It will be modified through the client using alter statement. Using alter statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same thing here. It is the real-time modification. No need to. For example, if you want to set some parameter, there is two options. Either you can go to Postgres configuration file, right? .conf, and you can add the parameter, right? This is the first method, right?
Yeah.
This is the first. If you don't want to go to the Postgres file, you want to put in runtime, okay? You can go to the psql run alter command. It will automatically
Alter system set.
Yeah, that's right. So it will set through alter command to the psql. It will, when you change the parameter through alter state, it will go to this file. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We will see in detail, you know, when we enable the archive log and all this. You know, my twin daughter came. They joined. You got that? Hello?
But the question is, if you do alter system set and then you what you want to what you want, does the alter will change again also in the Postgres or SQL.conf?
No need. It is a real-time change.
So you okay.
It is the real time. You no need to rebounce or reconfigure or reload the configuration. It is real time.
Okay.
In some cases, you have to have update through Postgres configuration, you know, when you do the basic configuration. But in the real environment, when you are in production environment, it is live environment, right? You cannot go through Postgres and do changes. You have to do through the SP file, the parameter file, which is using alter command. Okay.
Okay.
Because you know this point, because I'm getting day to day, you know, the complaint or sport, you know, about these things. So this is very important for you people to understand. Okay.
So if I got you well, anytime you want to, every time you are on production environment, the only configuration you can change is PostgreSQL AutoConf. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
But you have to do that through the alter command. You cannot open that file.
Yeah, because through the alter command you don't need to reload.
Yeah. It is a runtime.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, in Oracle, as I mentioned, you have two files. P file, which is you can modify, and one you have SP file, you cannot edit manually.
You cannot edit, yeah.
Okay. So that's why I make comparison. In Postgres, you have this one, which you can modify manually, right? But this you cannot modify manually. You have to go through alter. When you do alter, it will automatically edit it.
Okay.
Is okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
So this is the basically what we did. We connected to the database and we go through some configuration file. Okay. If I go here, we'll see. Before going these directories, we need to discuss the physical architecture of the Postgres, right? We talk about the binaries, we talk about the parameter files, right? We talk about the HBA firewall, we talk about the SQL configuration, right? So now this is the right time to talk about the physical architecture of the Postgres database, okay? You know, if I, you have idea about Oracle little. You told me last time you have idea about Oracle database, right?
Yeah, we have a little bit of background.
Yeah. Okay. Let me little, overview. So in Oracle, you have physical architecture. You have data files. You have read to log files.
control file.
You have control files. You have archive logs. You have P file. You have SP file, right? This is the physical architecture of the database. And you have background processes. Right? And you have shared pool.
You put backup. You put background. It's background
Oh,
processes.
sorry. Right? Let me give you an example.
Buffer cache. No, buffer cache.
Buffer cache, yes.
Yeah, it is a part of buffer cache. Buffer caching. Right?
NK buffer.
No, we will talk about this. Is a general, you know, we have background processes, we have shared pool, you know, the part of buffer cache, right? Under shared pool, you have these things, right?
Okay.
So the general speaking, we have these files, you know, we have data file, data structure, we have background processes, and we have shared pool, okay? It also called shared memory, right? It also called shared memory. Okay, brother? So first we talk, you know, the same thing, you know, in Postgres, you can see we have shared pool, shared memory. We have background processes, and we have data files, data structure. Okay.
You mean we have the storage, we have the
yeah. Well, I will talk about that. Okay.
Processes and the memory.
Yeah, shared memory. Yeah, shared memory is a you know, we will talk about one by one. Okay. Then you can ask a question.
Okay.
So first I talk about the shared memory. Okay. This is the first part. Basically, shared memory, you can say we can refer, this memory is reserved memory. You know, in the laptop, you have physical memory, or server, you have physical memory, right? So there is a portion of memory which is reserved for database caching and transaction log caching, okay? You know, when you have to, for example, you have one database, you want to insert some record, right? So when you insert some record into the database, there is in backend, there is a process, right? Right? So it will write first in the log file, for example. When you insert the record, it will go to the transaction log. Okay, using the wall buffer. It is called wall buffer here, but in the Oracle it called log buffer. Okay, wall buffer. Then it will go to the data file. We will go through one by one. Okay, just a little get understanding. Okay, so shared memory is the memory, you know, which make database caching and transaction log caching. Okay, you can see just remember in shared memory there is two most important part of shared memory. One is shared buffer, and second is a wall buffer. Okay, so in Oracle this is called a log buffer. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense. So if we talk about what is a shared buffer, we can talk about shared buffer. So just keep in mind the basic concept, you know. Shared buffer is basically it minimizes the disk input output performance. Okay, the purpose of shared buffer, for example, you can say, you know, many users connecting to one database, right? they are running different queries, right? Application connecting to the database with the different number of queries, right? So it gives you disk IO good performance. It reserves the memory for it buffer, it store, then it will give you the good performance on disk IO. And you can also minimize contention when many users access at the same time. I mean, there is a concurrent user, right? Maybe 20 users connecting to your database. Okay, so shared buffer will give you a good performance and make connectivity very fast using shared buffer. Okay, so it gives you good performance and good buffer query, storing the query in the buffer. For example, if you, for example, user A execute one query, okay, he get the output, and second user will run the same query. It will not write again the query plan. It will go and get the same query from the buffer and it executed, right? Got that?
No.
Oh, so shared buffer basically, the purpose is basically to minimize disk IO, disk input output. You know, for example, if one user run one query, okay, and he got result, then second user running the same query, it will not go to make execution plan again. It will take the same execution plan from the shared buffer.
Yes.
Right? To save the time. So it will give you the faster response. When we go in the testing, you will see one by one things. Okay.
Okay.
Frankly speaking, this you have to just definition. No one knows what is happening in backend, right?
So it's like cache miss and cache hit.
That's right. That's right. Then in the shared memory, second part is, you know, the wall buffer. The wall buffer basically is a temporary storage. It's store temporary things, you know, onto the database. Like, you know, when you do any DDL operation like insertion, deletion, or updation, okay, it will go first to the wall buffer. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it will write the changes. When you commit the change, it will write the change in the wall logs, wall files, right?
Yeah.
Which is called transaction log in other databases, transaction log, right? So this wall buffer is very important for DBA to maintain backup and recovery, point in time backup and recovery. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very important for DBA wall buffer.
In case we have a data loss, we can retrieve them with the wall buffer.
That's right. That's right. Then the next step is just a definition. We will go, you know, step by step again, you know, we'll go some configuration. That time you will get all details. Then we have background processes, right? Basically, you know, there are four processes, you know, four type of processes, you know. One is postmaster, and second is
Postgres.
background. Okay, I will not make it more complex. So just remember, we have background processes. Then we will go the some critical, you know, the processes. Okay, which is I will show you in the real time, you know, in the command.
Okay.
So if we go the diagram, you know, the most important processes are postmaster processes. Okay, just remember the postmaster and background processes. So, and postmaster, I will show you, know, how to see the logic. For example, let me log in. This is my Postgres, right? So first I will see what is my post master process. PS minus EF grep post. You see here, this is my Postgres master, right? So if you see, these are my all background processes. You see here, check pointer, background writer, state collector, wall writer. These are my all background processes, right? So for example, this is my post master process. This is my first, the parent process. This is my process ID. If I put this command PS3 minus P, this is my process parent, you will get all child processes under this, right? So post master is my parent process. Under post master, we have very many child processes. Okay. You can take, like for example, I will give you example here. Check pointer, you see the check pointer, this one, right? Check pointer. So what it will do, basically, when a checkpoint occur, the dirty buffer is written to the file. Checkpoint mean the database is every time checking if there is anything in buffer which is required to write to the database file or transaction log file, right? So it creates the alert. Okay, this committed is done. You can take from the dirty buffer to the physical file. Okay, so this we will see, you know, when we have real processes. Then background writer process is same thing, you know. It write the change. Okay, dirty buffer to the file. Okay, from buffer to the file. Buffer is basically memory, right? Is a memory, right? When we commit the transaction, it will write to the physical file, right? So when you see the buffer definition is the memory, part of memory, reserved memory. Then we have wall buffer. Wall writer. Wall writer mean it will write wall buffer to the wall file, which is a log file, right? So in the background processes, this work like that, you know. When you do some changes on the database, in background, it will work and write the changes from buffer to the physical files, right?
Yep.
This is very simple, actually. It's not. So the second most important part, this is the just knowledge, you know, what is the wall buffer, what is the background process, what is the shared memory, what is the you know, the memory cache, you know, how it caching, what is the how many processes in backend we have critical, what is the important process, which is the post master, which I you know earlier discussed. So now this was now we have database structure, right? In database structure, you can see here very important thing, you know, you have to understand database structure. If you not understand the database structure, you cannot do proper troubleshooting. Okay, so what we talk about memory structure and background processes, right? Now third thing is a very important. It is a part of physical architecture, database structure. Okay, so when we create, you know, when we run the init DB, as earlier in beginning I discussed, it will create the PG data structure, right? Right? When we run the init DB, okay, it will create the structure of PG data. Before PG data is empty. When you run this command, it will configure the Postgres database and it will create the directory structure under PG data folder, right? Right, dear?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So now if we, you know, basically, you see the mostly people said, oh, Postgres database cluster, right? They name it Postgres is the cluster, right? The cluster mean is the Postgres have several databases. Okay, that's why it's called cluster. It is not a real cluster which you have the for high availability or the native cluster. It is not like that. This cluster means you have collection of database under one instance. Okay. So I give you example here. I think it is good to write because you will understand. Okay.
Okay.
Database structure. To make database structure, we need to run the init DB, right? After this, when we done this, what will happen? What will happen? It will create the several databases, many databases. Which many databases? By default, Postgres database, template 0, template 1. These three database by default it created. Okay, when you run the init DB. In Oracle, when you create the database instance, it creates Scott Tiger, right? Scott and HR schema, right? The same thing and one seed schema, So here in Postgres, when we run the init DB, it creates 3 by default databases. Okay. So the template 0 and template 1, these are template databases. Okay. Is that template databases? You can say system databases. Okay.
But Z,
yeah.
Can we to connect in template as we connect?
You can connect
with Postgres.
Yeah.
Okay.
See here, but it is not recommended because template is a template to create user databases, right? For example, you connect to template database 0. You see, I get the list here. These, for example, I need to connect to this database, right?
Yes.
I just showing you. We will go through this. I'm connecting. You can. Oh my God! Because this is okay. This one database, because I modify something. Yeah, you cannot connect to template 0. You can connect to template 1 only.
So why not?
Because this template 0 is a seed database. When you create any database in Postgres, it will clone from here to there.
Oh.
It is a system database,
Okay.
You got that?
Yeah.
It is basically system catalog, tables, object, many triggers, system based. You are not authorized to use template 0 and template 1. Right?
This is community version, right? This is not EDB. This is community version. It's not EDB. Because I know with EDB.
Yeah, there is many. This is you can install the same thing, but the purpose is same, right? The configuration and everything is same. So just remember, when you create any user database, you are cloning template 1 database to new user database. Okay. So this is how Postgres will work, right? Okay, dear.
Okay.
So for example, I give you a very good example here. So you have template 1 database, because when you create any database, it will create it through this template database, right? So you connect to template database, you create one table. I give you a little example here. I connect to template 1, I create one table. Okay, just give you example. T1 name. Oh, T1 access. I create T2. Okay, I create one table, right? You see here, I create table where in template 1 database. Okay, I will show you real example. When I disconnect from here, I connect to my Postgres database. Okay, I create one new database. Database test 1, 2. Okay. So this database, it will create from which template? Template 1 by default, right? So I created in template 1 table, right? T2, right?
Yeah.
So this will also be created in this database, right? By default, because this is clone from template 1, right? So when I connect to this database, test 1, 2, and I can see T2 table, I can see here, right? I am connecting to the test database, right? So what I mean is, in template 1, I create one table, right? When the template 1 is the system database, right? When we create any database, user database, it will clone from template 1, right?
Yeah.
So template 1, I created one object, it will automatically clone, right? I created test 1, 2 database and it cloned from template 1, right? So the major big company, what they will do, they will create template 1 based on requirement. When anyone can create the database, it will take all configuration which is defined in template 1. This is the purpose of telling you. Okay.
Okay.
Any question?
So meaning if in template 1 we have 10 databases, so if we create a new databases, we will have those 10 from the template 1.
That's right.
So what is \G_T2?
Oh, you will go through this. This is the description of table. We'll go through all command there. I just
I know. Describe. Did you create a table T2?
Yeah, I create one database here.
Okay,
then,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I create one database. Then I create, here I create table, right?
Yeah, got it.
Yes.
No, I didn't see the table T2. That's fine.
And then, D is a description of T2.
Yeah. I didn't see.
I will share with the all P-SQL useful command, okay?
Okay.
And we will go through one by one there, right? Because I'm not explaining this now, right? So I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
Okay? Then we talk about this. Then, by default in Postgres, we have 2 table spaces. Basically, table space basically is a logical organize the object location, right? So what is the table space mean is a logical container of the data object. Like for example, you have one database test DB. Under test DB, you create table. Okay. When you create table, it will go default table space. Default table space is basically a container or logically container. Okay. The basically mean is the location of the table files. Okay. Is the logical. So for example, you in your database, you have 10 table spaces. And each table space have number of tables to make organize things, right? Like in Oracle, you have system table space, you have users table space, right? So same thing in the Postgres, by default, we have 2 table spaces. One is called PG default and second is called PG global, right? When you create any table, it will go by default here. If you will,
so then if you create a user, it will go where?
The user?
Yeah.
User is basically user and role. We will discuss in security, Otherwise, it will be mix of things.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Because we talking about database structure. So my direction will go other side. Security.
Okay.
So user part is a security part.
Okay. Okay.
So we talk about the data structure. When we create any object, table, trigger, procedure, anything, it will go using, because see, the table space used by tables object only. There is no procedure, no users, no trigger, no function, nothing. Okay. Table spaces only used by tables. You get that?
Okay.
User will not go to anywhere in PG in the table space. Okay.
Okay.
So user is different thing. So we have two table spaces by default. When we run the init db command, it will create it by default. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, any question there? This is very important actually.
No question.
So the table managed at the database cluster level, which is stored in the global table space, cluster level. You know, for example, if you have 2-3 cluster under group of databases, it will store in the global parameter. Global parameter is a globally accessible. Okay. It will store in the global table space. We will see, one by one. But in PG table space, basically, there is a physical path for this. Okay, physical path. Okay. By default, PG default, where it's stored in PG data. You will see the base directory. If I ls ltr, you see the PG base only. This one. Your all database physical files store in base. Okay. If we go to base, you will see here, these are all my physical databases. Okay. You just remember, when you create any, just remember physical location of table space under base folder in PG data. Okay. So for example, I create one table or I create one database. It will create new folder here. Okay.
Okay.
I will show you. Just give example. Create database Z Hayat. Quit ls. You see here, it created new, right?
Yes.
Right. So it create new. When you create any database, it will create new folder. Under this folder, it will create table spaces, tables, everything. Okay. So this is the basic physical structure. Okay. When you as a DBA role, you always to see the base directory. How many directory I have? So that directory mean these number of databases you have in directory, right? Physically.
Yeah.
So then in the PG global table space, you can see also, if I go to PG global space, PG global, where I am. PG. Yeah, global, this one, sorry. Global. See here, this is my global, global configuration as a cluster level. We will talk about this, but you also focus on PG base directory, which is the PG default. Okay. For example, when you create one custom table space, you can store in the base. It will create new folder, new table space, and your data will go to this table space. Okay. Then we talk about the database when we create where it go database by default in PG table space in the base directory. And when we create any object table in the database, it will go by default in the PG table space, right? So if we talk about the table, when we create any table, we talk about database, right? It create one folder under base directory, right? So when we create table, it will create 3 files. Just remember, it will create 3 files. Okay. When we create table, it will create 3 files. For example, you see here, go to base. This is the first maybe template database. This is a template 1, and this is my, the test DB. This we know we created this database, Z Hayat, right? This we created, no, right? This one. So what I do, I connect to this database, connect to Z Hayat, and create one table. First I will show you before creating table. Go to this folder. You see, these are files by default created. We did not do anything. It created by itself, right? When we create the database, right? Right. So let me go to this database again and create one table. I create earlier, right? I create table. Oh, sorry, it is there. I create table, right? So if I go there, it create new, this one, right? If you go to this directory, sorry, this is here, right? This is created, right? This is created file. So it create 3 files. One is, let me see. This is called basically OID, identifier, okay? So LLT16. You see here? 3 files it created, right? So first file is called OID table. This is OID. Then there is a second file, FSM, this one. When we real time do the demo, you will understand. 3 files, when you create table, just remember, when you create table, it will create 3 files. One is OID, second is OID FSM underscore FSM, and third is OID underscore Vim. So I will give you difference, okay? 3 files. This is OID. OID is identifier, right? Is the identifier of the object. Okay. So this, when you create any table, it will create unique OID for the object. Okay. Understand or?
Sure.
Yeah, I understand OID, but the
Object identifier, right?
Hello?
Yeah, I will rephrase.
Yeah,
when we create any table, it creates 3 files in backend, in physical architecture.
Yes.
One is OID, which is object identifier, like this, right? And second is FSM extension, second file. And third is VM underscore VM. Okay, 3 files it will create by default when you create table. So I will tell you what is the difference between 3 files now. Okay. So OID, this file store the real data which you inserting to the table. Okay. OID, first file will store the table data. And this file FSM extension, you see underscore FSM, OID underscore FSM, basically manage the table free space. It will manage the free space which is available for the table. Okay. And this, the VM, OID VM, basically this file manage the visibility of the table block. The file name is OID underscore VM, It is just block. So just remember, when you create any table, it creates 3 files. One is storing the data, one is the manage the free space on the table, and second is the visibility of the table blocks. 3 things. So just keep in mind, when you create table, it creates 3 files.
Okay. So you say the VM manage the bloater,
Right.
and then the FSM manage the free space on the table.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, you can see the table spaces by using query. If I query select OID, we will go through these queries, you know, OID static from, you can say from PG underscore table space. You can see how many table spaces by default you have. You see here, this I created, you know, for testing purpose, my table space. But by default, we have these 2 table spaces, right? And OID, you can see the OID of this one, okay? 1663, 1664. If you quit here, 1663, okay? So if you 166, you can see here, you can go by default, maybe this database. You can find OID, you can search and find OID from the specific database where you created, okay? Okay. So this is a query, you know how to check the table spaces. And, you know, for you people, just go through these all things. I talk about the physical architecture. You have to go through some documentation and, you know, what I deliver from my side. Then you know how to connect the PG admin, what is the configuration file, which we talk about. And, you know, this is very important. If you really, if you understand today lecture, that this is very useful for you.
Okay.
The next, you know, the next lecture will be on security.
Okay.
Then after this lecture, after security, we can go with the backup and recovery. And then the final lecture will be the AW cloud. Okay. So we have security, and we have backup and recovery. And then we have, you know, the basic advanced administration technique, like vacuum, repack, right? And then we have, you know, the AWS cloud, RDS.
So don't we do streaming computation?
Yeah, streaming I will do for you.
Look, how about logical and point-in-time recovery?
This is, yeah, we will go in the backup and recovery. But streaming, what he mentioned is very tricky, you know. Streaming is a separate, actually, it is almost 5-hour job, you know, to set up, right? So we will go with this.
What about migration?
Migration we will do from RDS to this will part in there. Okay.
Because I see based of the, let me open the thing that you sent to me. The thing that you sent to me, that was the, how am I calling it? The schedule, yeah, advance, all these things. We have to
Yeah,
go
we will go this advanced, because I just put the topic name. In this topic, there are many things, you know, we need to discuss, right?
Yeah.
I'm just giving example, you know, the hot, you know, the parent topic, security. In security, we have a lot of things. Backup and recovery, we have a lot of things. We have PG base, we have PG done, we have hot backup, we have, you know, the cold backup, right? So in advance, we have vacuum, repacking, migration, patching, upgrade, like that, you know. And AWS cloud, we have how to create the data EC2, how to install the Postgres, how to, you know, run the Postgres, how to do basic administration on Postgres, how to take backup from the Postgres to S3. You know, these things we do.
But you did not show us how to insert the data in the table space, all those stuff, insert, drop, stuff like that.
So this will in the first class, the next class we will go through the basic DDL commands before security DDL. I remember, we're not forgetting. It will be DML and DDL, like create database. Okay, create
Yeah, create database, create table space, insert, drop.
Insert. We will go through all DDL. In first part, second part will be security. We will go through.
Okay.
How to drop, how to insert, how to assign the primary key, how to change the table structure, how to see the table structure, how to drop the object. We will go through all. But what I mentioned is the high level, right? You have a code pipeline with you, right?
Can we please do a PD bench, PD
PD bench, yeah, we can cover. What you see?
PD dash, PD badger.
PD badger. Yeah, we can.
Okay.
This topic is advanced. This topic is in advance, right? It is in advance.
Okay. Okay.
We cover in this one.
Okay.
But first we cover the DDL, DVL, how to create object, delete, insert, this, that. Then second, on the same lecture, we will cover the security part, how to create user, how to give privileges, right? How to grant privileges, how to revoke the privileges, right? So then we go with the backup recovery, different method,
Yes.
Please don't forget about that documentation you have to do for me for that backup recommendation for my environment. They need that this week.
Yeah, this what they said in recording, they did not mention. They just talking about the backup. Either they can, okay, so we can propose them, you mean? So based on recording, you want me to propose the action?
You see the screenshot of one of my colleagues I sent to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you help me do the proper documentation based of what he wrote?
Okay,
Please.
let me review and I will do it. Okay.
Yeah, you can do it like you can send it like you can do like a year in the notepad or Word document to me, please.
Sure.
Yes, please. Also, after this session, can you send us directly the recording of this session? We're gonna go over it.
Yeah, I sent you earlier. You got right?
No, the recording for this one, this session for today.
Yeah. Obviously, I will send you.
Yeah, just write away, please. Thank you so much.
So there, I just wanted to get advice from you people. See the H1B1 visa, how it will be, because I come back without any luck, One person promised me, I went there and he did not do anything. I come back.
No, like I told you, can you stop the recording? You are still recording.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're still recording.
Just let me stop. I think I will pause the recording or I will stop the recording.